Hi, this is Tammy Dillard-Stills, Executive Director of YALSA, and it's 1 o'clock. And are we ready, presenters, before I begin introducing?
This is Karen, yes.
Okay, great. So this is YALSA's February webinar, Engaging Teens in the 2020 Census. We have today Karen Brown, Renea Battiste, Kat Torres, and Lyzbeth Beltran and Mary Pellicano. They will be our speakers. Karen Brown brings over 30 years of experience in higher education and academic libraries to the ACRL Consulting Services Program, and she manages the ACRL Consulting Services. Renea works for the Census Bureau tenure since 1988 and is a supervisor as a supervisory survey statistician, where she supervised the tri-state data collection activities and demographic surveys at the Detroit Regional Office. We have also Mary Pellicano. She's a librarian with the Tuscarora High School in Leesburg, Virginia. And Kat Torres. She's a librarian at the Santa Ana Public Library and works in the Young Adult Department. And Lyzbeth Beltran, assistant librarian at the Santa Ana Public Library. She also works with the Young Adult Department. Okay, ladies, take it away. Thank you.
Okay, this is Karen. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Okay. So thank you again, Tammy. And it's fortunate that I've been able to work with American Library Association on some of its census awareness and engagement activities. My other hat, though, as you can see under my picture, I'm also on the faculty at the School of Information Studies at Dominican University. I want to begin by just a few minutes providing an overview of the 2020 census so that we have a framework for the presentations that are going to follow. So the census is going to begin very soon. It's a count of all US residents required every 10 years by the Constitution, and the census form that each household receives asks about all the people who live and sleep in that household most of the time, including babies and anyone who has no other permanent place to stay and maybe is staying in the household as of April 1st, 2020. The goal is to count every person once and only once and in the right place. Now, even though young adults typically do not complete the census form, because it's individuals 18 years or older who are asked to fill out a form for the household, we're going to be hearing today about ways, though, that they can be incredibly influential in letting their parents or guardians know about the importance of the census. And also, since they will likely be responding to the census in 2030, this year is a prime opportunity to kind of raise their awareness about the census. The census results are used for multiple purposes, including determining how and where more than $105 trillion in government funding is allocated for services and programs that communities and institutions rely on. For example, census data determines representation in Congress and the Electoral College, as well as in state and local government. The data is used by agencies and organizations of all types to establish policy and plan programs and services. And just as some examples, it's used for schools, health centers, roads, housing assistance, and other vital programs, including National School Lunch Program, Medicare, SNAP, as well as the Institute of Museum and Library Services grants that are given to states across the nation. One of the topics that we're going to be focusing on today is reaching hard-to-count populations. Historically, some groups have been undercounted, and these groups they're considered hard to count because the Census Bureau has found it difficult to interview or locate, maybe contact or even persuade them to participate in the census count. And some hard-to-count populations include there are about 13 different hard-to-count populations, but immigrants, individuals where English is not maybe their first language, people who are experiencing homelessness, young children, children under 5, and this may bridge into the young adult population, young mobile people, college students. They're renters, they're moving around. The Census Bureau maintains an interactive map that identifies what they call hard to count tracts areas across the entire nation. I've just zeroed in on St. Louis here. It's interactive, it's live. You can keep track of where the census has sent initial questionnaires and so forth that I'll talk about in a moment. One of the nice features, if you notice in the box on the right-hand side, there is a toggle button. And if you click that on, it identifies where public libraries are located in the area that you've zoomed in on. So how does this census unfold? And there's some key dates. First of all, March 12th, just a couple of weeks, the Census Bureau will mail an invitation letter to just about all the households in the United States, and it will have instructions for responding to the census. Now, in some very remote areas, rural areas, the census invitation letter is actually hand-delivered. The 2020 census is going to be the first census to include and actually encourage online response option. But the letter also provides instructions for completing the questionnaire by phone and by mail. In other words, you do not have to complete it online. The Census Bureau uses other methods for counting individuals in what are referred to as group living quarters, such as military barracks or college dorms, prisons, skilled nursing homes. There is also a 3-day night period when census workers or their partners try to reach people who are experiencing homelessness at such places as shelters, the soup kitchens, outdoor locations. April 1st is designated as official census day. People can complete their census form before April 1st, but it's kind of a reference date, and people are asked to include on their questionnaire form when they fill it out, they should include everyone who will be a usual resident of their household on April 1st. Then in May, the Census Bureau begins to follow up with households that didn't self-respond to the census letter or following numerous reminders, and they begin to follow up by visiting households to collect the responses in person. And then finally, people should know that actually the self-response is available all the way through July 31st. It's important for people to know that the form itself only takes about 10 minutes to complete, whether or not you're doing it online, by phone, or as a print. And the information is kept confidential. As a reminder, there is no citizenship question on the census form. And there is quite a bit of language support in terms of, in addition to English, respondents can complete the census form in 12 non-English languages. They can complete in these languages online or by telephone. Plus, the Census Bureau has language guides, language glossaries, language identification cards that will be provided in 59 non-English languages. So that's the kind of nutshell overview about the 2020 census. We'll be talking about towards the end, and we're going to leave some time for questions. Want to highlight where you can find more information, more sources. You can sign up for an email that comes out, for emails and newsletters that come out from ALA about the census. There is just a newly updated Library's Guide to the 2020 Census. It's about 12 pages, includes far more information than I've provided. And then also on the ala.org/census page, there are several 2-page tip sheets on such topics as reaching families with young children or preparing your library for the census. There's one about the online self-response form that is just about to be published in the next few days. You're also going to find on that webpage links to recordings of 4 previous webinars that we've been doing targeting different topics, as well as downloadable graphics and related materials. So that hopefully provides a general framework. And what we're going to do is now move to Renee, who has really lots of information about resources that you should know about from the Census Bureau that will be particularly of interest to young adults. So I'm going to turn it over to Renee. And remember to unmute yourself, Renee. Renee, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're unmuted. You need to unmute your mic. Okay. There. Is that Renee?
Renee? No, this is Tammy.
Okay. Maybe what we can do, yeah, it sounds like we don't have a good connection for Renee. Let's give it just about 30 more seconds. And if we can't get her connected right away, I think what we'll do is move on to, we have Mary Pellicano, who's a high school librarian, as well as we have Kat and Liz, who are public, work in a teen room at Santa Ana Public Library, and we'll also have them talk about some of the work that they're doing. So let's just wait another minute. Renee, have you been able to connect? We did hear you just as we were setting up. Okay.
We can move on.
Okay, so go ahead, Mary. Would you, I'm gonna zip through a number of slides so that we can get to Renee's, I'm sorry, to Mary's slides.
And we can return once we get a connection with Renee.
Exactly. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mary Pellicano. I'm a high school librarian in Leesburg, Virginia. A lot of what my slides are going to refer to Renee's, her presentation on the program Statistics in Schools, which has a lot of lessons and activities that you can use in K through 12 schools. I'm going to talk particularly about what you can do to engage high schoolers with the census, different ways we can do that. Next slide, please. I think that teens in high school can be a way that we can connect to traditionally undercounted populations, particularly immigrants and children under 5. My school in particular has about over 20% of our students are immigrants, English not being their first language. And we've come to understand that in a lot of ways, their kids coming to school is in some situations, the only connection they have to any kind of government facility or institution. So it can be a way to reach those traditionally undercounted populations. We have decided to include census information and raise awareness through advisory. It's like a homeroom type of program that we have once a week, where it's an all-school lesson. We send flyers home in multiple languages. We have a parent liaison whose job it is to connect with homes to make sure that parents and guardians understand what's going on in the home. We also do have some students who are live in homeless shelter. So we'll make sure that information is sent home in the backpacks that way, or sent home with them. And also we are a one-to-one school. Every student has a laptop issued to them. So putting a link on their desktop with information can be useful too. Next slide, please. For displays in the library, we've decided that a good way to approach that is to link holidays and monthly commemorations with census information and activities. For example, St. Patrick's Day, there's information, there's a good infographic on the Statistics in School website that shows where immigrants from Ireland have settled in the United States. It's pretty interesting and fun and very colorful. Earth Day, Women's History Months are good opportunities to set up displays that can highlight the way the census information and activities have impacted or are connected to those celebrations. there's tons of information, tons of poster and infographics on the Statistics in Schools website. We also there's banners that you can put on for social media posts, and I've been including information on the census in my library newsletters as well. Next slide. The curriculum connections, the Statistics in School like I said before, and you'll see when Renee comes on, there's tons of activities and lesson plans. One way that we've been trying to leverage those is to connect them to our state school standards when appropriate. Our state, Virginia, does not use the Common Core. It's one of 4 states that hasn't adopted the Common Core. We have our own state standards, but a crosswalk with the Common Core, I believe, is on the website. So you can approach your teachers in the core subjects and the electives on what would appropriate lessons for their classroom. I know at my school, our scope and sequence is pretty tight, and teachers are not generally amenable for me to come in and hijack their classrooms because they just don't have time. But there are ways, I think, to embed library type research lessons using census information in history, social issues, civics, and classes like that. Voter registration, we can talk about how congressional districts are drawn using census data. In English, we're using primary source materials is one of the standards. And I think bringing up using census records as a primary source example is a good way to raise awareness for census in the English classroom, among other areas. Analyzing the charts and the data that come out of census activities is a good way to introduce data literacy across the curriculum, really, but specifically in math classes and statistic classes. I think that's a natural fit. So what I do usually is that if I can't get into the classroom, I will go to department meetings and just share with the teachers what resources are available in their particular subject areas, and also listen to what they're doing in their classrooms and try to find ways that we can embed census-specific content into their instruction. Next slide, please. There is opportunity for me to do mini lessons focusing on information literacy, and I often do mini lessons using picture books because even the high schoolers like to be read to. So we have a robust collection of picture books that can address lots of different topics across subject matter. I found a book called Tricking the Tallyman, and it's about the first census that took place in 1790. And it's amusing and interesting. And it talks about the tallyman, who was the census taker, and he was riding on horseback throughout rural communities, and how in this very first, in our brand new country, people were very distrustful of the government, and they were suspicious of what this information was going to be used for. And I think that's kind of funny because we're seeing a little bit of that in 2020. And I think it would be interesting. I'm developing a lesson now. I think it'll be interesting to make that connection about misinformation today and fake news, and how we have a long history of misinformation and distrust of the government, and how we can tie that back in to what's going on today. Next slide, please. And that's the cover of the book. Highly recommend it for anybody in school or public library who wants to use it to raise awareness for the census and in a historical context. Next slide. Like I said, I use picture books a lot with the students, even in high school. And there's a couple of opportunities in the next couple of months. Everybody celebrates Dr. Seuss's birthday. So I'm planning on doing a display for Read Across America Day, highlighting diversity and inclusion and equity, all the things that the census can help produce in our community, And using some of these are some of the books that I found that can facilitate that. You can see that they all have to do with community, being counted, being part of something bigger than ourselves, and that's kind of what the census is for our communities to come together and make the most of our numbers. Next slide, please. I also thought of fun ideas that we could do to raise awareness. There's always opportunities when the community comes in to the building for sports, musical performances, plays, college fairs. Those are all opportunities where we can put up posters and hand out flyers and have banners and that sort of thing. We do have a diversity night, Unite it's called, another great opportunity, especially to get our immigrant families. They love that night. They come in with their specialty foods. And so we are planning on having flyers and posters up for that night and to highlight that. I thought of doing a contest for the kids to create a meme to raise awareness for the census. Some classic meme templates, Grumpy Cat, Uncle Sam wants you, that sort of thing. We do daily announcements. I'm in charge of that. And I thought, a census trivia or fact of the day on the daily announcement could keep it in the minds of everyone and kind of be a fun way to just get people to be thinking about the different ways that we use census information and why it's important. I know, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, the complete count committee of our county, every county has one. Our board of supervisors is very involved in trying to get the word out. Having somebody come as a guest speaker to some clubs or classes is a good idea to kind of elevate that to another level. And they have a whole program that they're doing in the community, working with churches and businesses and schools and libraries. So we would want to tack on to that and kind of leverage the activities that they're doing into the school. They have an action timeline, like Karen was talking about, and to try to jump in on that too. There's at the state level, they have a art contest that's going on. So I intend to bring that, to print out flyers on that and bring that to the art teacher to try to get some of our students involved in that as well. Next slide. And also, if you're over 18, I just had a student yesterday who was extremely excited, and I showed him how to apply online to be a enumerator, to work for the census. It starts in my county, I don't know about everywhere else, but it starts at $25 an hour. And we have lots of students in here in my building that are 18 years old. Not all of them are citizens, but we don't have to ask that. They know if they're citizens or not. But the ones that are can apply for a job and make lots more money than they can make at McDonald's. So this young man was very excited about that yesterday. So that's another thing, another way we can raise awareness and get the kids involved in really taking part in becoming an enumerator and making the census work for everyone. Next slide, please. And that was it for me.
Thanks so much, Mary. We're going to go ahead and move to Kat Torres and Lyzbeth Beltran, who work for the Young Adult Teen Space at Santa Ana Public Library in California. So I'm going to turn the mic over to them. And you may need to unmute your mic. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear it now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Kat. And I'm Lyzbeth. And we're from the Santa Ana Public Library. We work with volunteers and teens, and we've been, what we did for our library was we brought in a speaker to a program that gets a lot of participation, both teens and volunteers. We've found that our teen population are great advocates and ambassadors within their own communities, in their schools, and they also have great connections with their parents. We live in Santa Ana in Orange County, and we serve a large low-income population, mostly Hispanic community, and Vietnamese community as well. And a lot of them are first-generation immigrants, so it does help to have the teams relay this information to their parents and family members who may not be as trusting of government policies and government institutions.
We have also included our logo for 2020 census in all of our flyers, anything that goes from the city. So the city is also very involved because we're part of we're a city library, and many of the flyers, have the census, which also triggers, anybody reading any of the flyers being what's 2020 census, and we do at times get questions from our teams, like asking, I'm like, what is that? And then that's when we also come in and explain a little bit about what it is and why it's important for them to learn, and also encourage their parents or anybody anybody over 18 to fill out the census. We can go to the next slide, I think. On this, yeah. Well, that's us.
Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions following our presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can go to the next slide, and let's see.
So we worked with Cynthia Sanchez, who is the Director of Community Organizing with Orange County Congregation Community Organization. She is she works with a lot of immigrant communities and other groups that are marginalized to bring representation to them. And so she was very effective in connecting to our youth and letting them know how it affects them through an urban planning exercise. There we have our planner party group in the pictures. They are a group that it's kind of a peer support group, and they come together once a week, now twice a week, and discuss their goals and do time management exercises. But we thought that because this program is so well attended on a regular basis, it would be great to bring that information to them. So what we found out is that when we pitch a civic engagement program, it is not always very well attended. So what we did in this case was doing the reverse and bring in a speaker to something that is already very well attended.
There's also incentives as well, the city and the partners with the census, they created a incentive program as well. So I know that we also had other workshops, those workshops were just kind of created without having a group of people attend to that. So it was just more come to this meeting to learn more about the census, and they had an incentive for the adults to get a $100 Visa gift card. So then we also we approached them and we said, hey, we already have a group. Do you guys mind coming to engage with our youth and letting them know what the census is and so on? And they also they also gave them a it was more of a opportunity drawing to win a $50 Visa gift card as well. So that was kind of the incentive for our youth as well to kind of come on that day.
We also had the presentation geared more towards the youth, so it was a lot more interactive, and it had less to do with the logistics about how the census works. As far as this time, when people are able to to send in their information through various means, but rather focus it on connecting the census to their experience here in the community. For example, they were able to point out how funding is allocated throughout the city within their neighborhoods and compare neighborhoods. If you can go to the next slide, please. Our presenter had a large map developed of
All right,
the
I have a
city.
major problem. Where's my microphone on here?
Your microphone?
Yes. Hold on a sec, Renee.
Okay, we can hear Renee.
Yeah,
Clearly.
Renee, we can hear you. So we're going to finish up the presentation from Santa Ana, and then we can hear you. So we will then just come back to you in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay.
And during our presentation of each of the youth, we're able to put Post-its on the map to kind of design what they'd like the city to look like and how the census affects the placement of schools and libraries and avenues and all sorts of things that make the city better.
That's pretty much what we have. We also our partner also gave them a nice little flyer with just the data and more information for them to kind of read over. But she didn't go through that, just more engaged with them and the little map so they can have an idea of how it works, which was perfect for them because, if you work with young adults or teens, their span of attention is very, very low. So these work perfect. If you guys have any questions, feel free to get in touch with us, but this is pretty much what we have here at the Santa Ana Public Library.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. And I think we've got Renee with the U.S. Census Bureau. We're going to just in a moment, we can unmute her. Renee, I'm going to go back to your slides so everybody can hold on a minute while I make you all dizzy as I flash through these PowerPoint slides. Okay, Renee, can you unmute your mic? And I think we've got you online now. Whoops, right now you're muted. Can you unmute the mic? There.
Karen,
there, we can hear.
No, this is Kathy Hartz. All right, we're having a technical problem on our end. Renee, we're going to set this up. I don't know if it's going to work. I apologize to the group, but let's see if you can hear Renee through my phone. Renee, go ahead.
Okay, hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the greatest workaround. So,
yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be with you today to share with you on the Census Bureau Statistics in Schools program and the imminent 2020 census. Now, I'm hearing a double. Yeah, I'm hearing an echo, so this is going to be a little challenge here. I do want to bring to your attention that at the bottom of each slide is our website and all the resources and activities that I'll be discussing today you can find at our website. Next slide, please. Okay, the Census in Schools program, as our program was formerly called, was part of our outreach efforts for the Census 2000 and the Census 2010. And dating back at least to 1950 census, the Census Bureau has continued to have some type of outreach to the educational community. And the Census in Schools program provided educators with materials such as teaching guides and lesson plans and a giant wall map to teach children in grades K through 12 about the census in an effort to involve them in communicating the message about the importance of the census to their families. The program reaches to the United States stateside, Puerto Rico, and the island areas. And then after the 2010 census, we wanted to remain consistent and reliable source of information for the educational community. Hence, we have the Statistics in Schools program, which we like to dub CIS, as it's referred to in its ongoing phase. Next slide, please. So just what is Statistics in Schools? And I'm glad you asked. It is a free program for K through 12 teachers that offers free resources and activities. And I'm excited to say that we now offer pre-K materials as well on our website, along with ELL and ESL resources. In the heart of our program are the standards-based activities that utilize the census data. We want to show students that data is all around them and it's not just math. So we offer resources in history, English, math, social studies, geography, and sociology. It's basically all the core curriculum subjects. Next slide, please. Now that we have gone over some of the resources, let me tell you about some of the goals of the CIS program. First, we want to position CIS as a leader in providing statistical content for the classroom. And also, we want to educate students about the Census Bureau and have them grow up and understand the value of our work, and when they are asked to participate in a survey that they will. And perhaps maybe when they grow up, they'll come to work for us. Next slide. Okay, we work with teachers and various subject matter experts to create the content of this program. And basically, the CIS program is created by teachers for teachers. And there are 9 subject matter expert groups listed there. Next slide, please. Okay, the heart of our program are the standards-based activities that use census data. We want to show students that, again, data is all around them, and we have the core resources. And now I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of these subjects and some of the activities they are available in. Next slide, please. Here is an example of 3 of our history and social studies activities. You see, the census data can be used to do research papers on African American history. And notice the pictures that illustrate first the Native American dwellings, which teaches kids about teepees, Pueblo adobe dwellings, and hogans. And then a lower view of the cartoon at the bottom, the political cartoon about the 1920 census, helps to better understand how the census was related to the progressive movement of the early 20th century. Now let's take a look at one of the fun history activities we offer. Next slide, please. In the history of the telephone activity, this lesson walks students through the evolution of the telephone, starting with one of the first phones created by Alexander Graham Bell in 1892. This photo from over 100 years ago shows Mr. Bell making a call from New York to Chicago. Teachers asked the students about the different types of phones, from the candlestick phone to a more modern phone from the 1920s. Another question teachers will ask students is to describe how the handle phone looks different and how this design could have changed the way people use the phone. Next slide, please. If you take a look at the graph, it shows the percentage of houses that had landline telephone service between 1950 and 2011. The data shows that phone usage rose in the 1960s and then started its decline around 2011. Next slide. In 12th grade. They will use the Census Flows Mapper data visualization tool to examine an interactive map of inbound and outbound migration patterns in the U.S. And again, we'd like to encourage you to visit our website, census.gov/schools, to learn more about the offerings we have available across subjects. Next slide, please. Voting Trends in America from 1964 to 2014. This activity is designed to be part of a unit on the U.S. Constitution as it focuses on U.S. voting trends. Next slide. Trends in congressional apportionment. Students examine a 2010 census brief to understand the apportionment process and to analyze the relationship between a state's population and its number of seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. They will identify trends in congressional apportionment. They will be able to understand how to calculate a state number of seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And again, all these things I'm sharing with you are resources that are on the website, ready to go. There's no comeuppance, there's no registration required. When the teachers go onto the website, they can begin to download the resources right on the spot. Next slide, please. This Coral Plus map shows the apportionment changes seen across the United States between 2000 and 2010. Next slide. Now on to our math activities. Now, because you all are working with young adults, I'm going to skip that elementary one and just go right to the middle school on earnings and educational attainment. Students will use census data to learn the correlation between education and earnings. And then for high school, analyzing relationships, marriage, divorce, and linear regression, students will examine census data on marriage and divorce rates for women and men in each state and District of Columbia. Next slide. Our next activity is called Exploring Sampling Variability. In this activity, students will explore the sampling variability in sample percentages of states and District of Columbia where people aged 25 and older have a bachelor's degree in 2014 to determine values over 30%. Then once they've completed the activity, they will be able to create dot plots of sample percentages and investigate sampling variability in sample percentages. Next slide, please. We have a few 2020 activities for grades 9 through 12, and this is a visual of how those sheets look when very nice and colorful, the resource pages that the teachers can print out. The two you see highlighted here, Make Data Speak and Community Change, will help students learn how to make visual representations of data to give meaning to numbers and help students learn how to analyze trends and shifts in community population over time. Next slide. In this math activity, students will interpret and compare box plots to make claims and inferences based on the data. They'll look at differences in earnings between the sexes and between levels of educational attainment. Next slide. Here's another example from this activity showing the median earnings for men and women whose highest level of education is a bachelor's degree. And then notice the two asterisks. Compared with the 50 states, the District of Columbia is an outlier in this data set in terms of median earnings for women whose highest level of education is a bachelor's degree. So in DC, the women actually fare better in terms of earnings with a bachelor's degree than across the rest of the United States. Next slide, please. Sociology activities helps students explore changes in family and living arrangement trends, geographic mobility and migration, and chronicling the social economic issues such as poverty in America. In the Poverty in America activity, students will be able to identify the difference between the official poverty measure developed in the 60s and the supplemental poverty measure developed in 2000. Students will be able to also use Census Bureau resources to identify changes in rates of poverty and analyze our poverty data, other poverty data. And that's what the census is really proud about, is that they're actually using census data with the activities, actual live census data. Next slide, please. Next are some specific examples by subject to give you an idea of our activity features. In this activity, the teachers will facilitate a class discussion for students to share their opinions about young adulthood. Students will read, annotate, and answer questions about a technical document, including tables and graphs, to gather evidence to support conversations with their classmates about young adulthood. Then students will write a paragraph about how their generation defines young adulthood. What does it mean to be a young adult today, and how has that changed since 2005? More young adults are living at home, for example, with their parents. As you can see from the darker shaded states, the number of young adults living at home has significantly increased throughout the country since 2005. Next slide, please. Our last subject is sociology. Students will look at data showing how the millennial generation differs from other generations. They will analyze and evaluate social changes evident in the data. Then they will work with a partner to compose a newsletter. Next slide. Using census facts from the millennial generation activities, students will analyze and evaluate social changes in the data. Give you a little time to look those points over. Okay, next slide, thank you. Students will use a U.S. Census Bureau data tool called State Facts for students and this map of the United States to help find Gina. An example of a question students will work through is, I have a sweet tooth and eat candy maybe a little more than I should. Don't tell my dentist. This state or territory had only one candy and nut store in 2016, so I knew I couldn't go there. Which state or territory can you eliminate? And in this case, the answer would be U.S. Virgin Islands. So those are fun activities that the students get involved in while learning. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we have several fun and challenging geography activities. In examining environmental changes, students will examine a series of photographs that compare famous landmarks, including Times Square, Laguna Beach, and Niagara Falls across time. Students will also examine United States Census Bureau population and housing data to see how population changes contribute to changes in the physical environment. Next slide, please. Pictured here are 3 examples of our English activities we offer for different grade levels. Each of these activities has a student version and a teacher version that can easily be downloaded for use in the classroom. Again, these lessons have already been sought out and they're just ready to go with the teacher's version and the student version. So it's already packaged program, it's actually wonderful to supplement the lesson plans when you have even a substitute in the classroom. Also, each of these individual activities has targeted grade levels, and all of them come with a list of learning objectives and skills that align to current educational standards. Next slide, please. So this sums up our activities. Now let's take a look at our resources. Monthly fun facts, warm-up activities, videos, and other resources in the newsletter. Next slide. Aside from the activities that we discuss in various subjects, we have resources like fun facts, games, and warm-up activities. To commemorate holidays and special events, we've created a resource each month to highlight relevant facts and figures. Our fun facts provide students with relevant statistics that explore our data in a timely manner. Statistics in schools quiz, for example, they can quiz themselves on facts about the United States, like which state is the most densely populated, how do most people get to work, all while discovering a variety of data produced by the United States Census Bureau. And then there are warm-up activities. They used to call this back in the day bell work. It's our 5-minute warm-up activities that demonstrate the value of data and inspire discussion about a specific subject. These can be used when you have a few extra minutes left in your class, in your session, or as extra credit. Next slide, please. One of our most popular data access tools is the State Facts for Students. Targeted to elementary and early middle school, it contains kid-friendly data such as how many 12-year-olds are in my state, or ice cream shops, or dentist offices. Students collect, analyze, and grasp this information while learning about their state. Next slide, please. Here's an example of our Earth Day Fun Facts resource. To commemorate holidays and special events, we've created a resource each month to highlight relevant facts and figures. These are teaching guides, or excuse me, there are teaching guides for ideas on how to incorporate them into the classroom. Next slide. Here's another activity featuring an introduction to the 2020 census, including planned questions and the importance of each question. Also featured on this slide is an activity on diversity. Next slide. Here's an example of our Fun Facts resource. To commemorate holidays and special events, we created a resource each month to highlight relevant facts and figures. There are teaching guides for ideas on how to incorporate them into the classroom. So stay tuned for our next Fun Facts on Earth Day coming in a few weeks. Next slide. Here's an example of the wall maps which were mailed to each school in the United States, Puerto Rico, and U.S. territories. So look for whoever would receive, well, the teachers should look for whoever would receive the packets addressed to the principal. So we sent wall maps to every school. Next slide. Our program is working in conjunction with 2020 Census Complete Count initiatives to ensure everyone gets counted, particularly children. Next slide. Data from the census, as you all heard from the previous speakers, provide the basis for distributing more than $675 billion in federal funds annually. These funds go to vital community programs. So an accurate count of all children will help ensure that these funding and policy decisions are based on accurate information. Next slide. And we just have a few more, I promise. How can you help? Thank you again for asking. Through a CIS partnership, organizations can support critical efforts toward fair representation in Congress, fair distribution of community funding, and execution of civic duty. Responses to the 2020 census drive decisions for funding, and we ask if you could help get the word out, remind community team members to count all children living or sleeping in their home most of the time, regardless of who or where their parents are. And again, as shared, the census, participating in the census is easy, safe, and important. The Census Bureau will never share any information with government agencies, and the responses cannot be held against them. Next slide, please. So we ask for your help in encouraging teachers to use our Statistics in Schools resources. They can sign up at our website. Again, it tells them, gives them instructions. Once you get on the website, if you want to know how they could help with getting the word out with the census, they click on About and Newsletters to sign up to get regular updates. Next slide, please. Oh, that one, thank you. We have been partnering with education organizations to get the word out about our census resources for teachers, and here are a few of our partners. And the quote that's there was provided by the magazine for the National Council for Geographic Education. Next slide. We're excited about the upcoming event. This is a major event where teachers will be participating across the country with activities to do each week. We are underway with this event, and it's replete with guided instructions on ways for teachers to get involved in exposing students to the importance of the census, and emphasis will be on how important participation is in terms of being counted. Next slide. last but not least, there is our email to write directly into our branch, Statistics in Schools. Don't hesitate to shoot us an email if you have further questions, and there is our number. And I thank you all that work with me to get me on the line, and I'm actually on Catherine's line talking through her speaker there. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Renee, and thank you, Kathy, for getting Renee connected. And it's incredible how many resources are available. In just a moment, I'll show you a slide that has, in addition, a couple of other Census Bureau links where you can find resources. I know a number of public libraries are also using the Statistics in Schools resources. So many opportunities. So what we want to do, though, now is provide you with a chance to ask questions. And I'm going to zip through. So questions, comments. Here are, again, the links for the American Library Association. If you use Twitter, be sure and share your stories about involvement with your library in the census. Again, the census website. Just so that you know, on February 18th, the Office for Diversity, Literacy, and Outreach Services at the American Library Association is having a webinar focused specifically on outreach to communities of color. And if you happen to be at the Public Library Association conference coming up, there is also going to be a presentation. And again, if you go to the ala.org/census, you can find more information about all of these. But I do want to pause and give a chance. We have a few minutes for questions for any of the presenters or comments about what you're doing in your library with young adults. Tammy, do you see any questions? Sometimes my chat box goes down, so I just want to make sure I'm not missing any.
I do not see any questions, and I have unmuted all of the guests on the webinar.
Great.
So feel free to jump in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
See, now you can hear me. This is Renee. I was just testing.
So, of course it works now that we have 2 minutes left, but it was pretty a marvelous workaround that you all did, so thank you. Questions from anybody else in the, but I think you get a sense of ways that whether you're in a high school library or you're working with young adults in a public library, have an incredible influence on teens and young adults, just maybe communicating for their own awareness and education, but also communicating to their family about the importance of the census. And depending on the situation, they may be able to even assist their guardians or parents with completing the census form.
Okay, I don't see any questions.
Okay. I'm going to put up, if you do have questions, the office in Washington, as well as PLA, Gavin Baker, who's in Washington, Lara Clark, who is at PLA and also connected with the Washington office, or myself, you can feel free to contact us and if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, well, this concludes our webinar, and I thank you for attending, and we're about to end. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.